How's it going, everybody? Lampini here again today with my second part of the NFL record predictions video for the 2025 NFL season. So we already got the AFC taken care of in our first video, and now in this one, we're going to be going over the NFC. So we're just going to jump right into it. The first division we're going to go after is the NFC East, and we're going to start off with the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. As much as I hate to admit it, the Eagles are probably the best team in the NFL. They were the rightful winners last year. They looked like an absolute powerhouse. They looked incredible. They looked so strong. They dominated in the postseason. The Rams gave them a tough showing, but they still won convincingly. They destroyed the Chiefs. They were nothing short of a powerhouse. And honestly, they looked like this in 2022 as well. They just barely lost out to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So they got their revenge. 2023 seems more and more like a outlier more than anything. So they're going to be as strong as they were last year, I think. Howie Roseman's the best GM in the NFL, and he really, I think, takes most of the credit for the Eagles. They have an incredible roster. They have so much talent. It is a lot, they are so good. They are going to go 14-3, in my opinion. I think they're going to be just as strong as they were last year. They have a very strong case for going back-to-back. I don't know if it's going to happen. A lot of things need to go right for a team to go back-to-back. But I think that the Eagles have a very, very strong chance of doing it. They're still going to be one of the best teams in the league. They're going to finish 14-3. So next up, we are going to go after my Washington Commanders. Yes, we're going to go into them a bit early today. So as of recording this video, Terry McLaurin did sign his extension, so we don't have to worry about Terry McLaurin getting traded or holding out. He's in. He's practicing. We are going full pelt, 100% into everything. They were a 12-win team last year, and pretty much everything went how it needed to go. They got some lucky bounces, like the Hail Mary, and a lot of other things that last season that got them to those 12 wins. They got a little lucky beating Tampa Bay with the doink. They beat the Lions convincingly. They played a great game, and they beat them. They made it all the way to the conference championship. Everyone says that the Commanders are Super Bowl hopefuls now, and I'm going to be 110% honest. I don't see it. I think they are going to be contenders for years to come because they have Jaden Daniels, and when you have a top 5 quarterback like that, you're always going to be in title contention. So I think we finally broken through that glass ceiling, and we will, year in and year out, be considered a Super Bowl caliber or a playoff caliber team. I just don't know about winning the Super Bowl. The reason why I say that is I don't think our defense has made enough of a jump. Getting Von Miller is fine, but we haven't really made a lot of big changes on defense, and our defense was just average last year. Now, another year under the same regime, they might improve things. I think our offense is still going to be our strong point. We did very well beefing up the offensive line, getting Laramie Tunsil. I think that Deebo Samuel was a good acquisition. I think when you have a player with that much versatility, that can go a long way for you. We got rid of Brian Robinson, traded him to San Francisco. They must have a lot of faith in this Bill Krosky-Merritt guy, a rookie running back that we got, because they're probably going to give him most of the carries. But a guy like Austin Eckler is going to help with that. He still is in incredible shape. He was a great acquisition. We have Hall of Famer Bobby Wagner. We have Frankie Louvu, who's a nice middle-aged player. He's in his late 20s, which is usually where you peak. You're good physically and you have the mental. You have a couple years under your belt. So I think he's going to take a big step. Mike Sainer still is in his second year. He's a good defensive back. I think we're going to still be very good. Don't get me wrong. I think we're going to finish 11-6. I think we're still going to be a very good team. I just don't think we're going to win the Super Bowl. We might win a playoff game. We might lose out in the divisional round. We might even make the conference championship again. But I don't a lot would have to go right for us to win the Super Bowl or even make the Super Bowl. But listen, I'm still super happy because this is the most successful my team has been in my entire lifetime. We have our franchise quarterback. We have a good regime. We have good ownership. We have a great GM. You can't ask for anything more than that. So 11-6 for the Washington Commanders. So next up, we have the Dallas Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are a team that is primed for regression. They got rid of Mike McCarthy, and now they have Brian Schottenheimer as their head coach, who I think is a very perfect stooge for Jerry Jones, someone that Jerry Jones can just point the finger and say, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. all that great stuff, so you can still remain in control and, get all of the credit for the Cowboys succeeding. As of recording this video, the Micah Parsons contract extension has still not gone anywhere, and Micah Parsons went on record saying that he's never going to play for the Cowboys. So a lot of the drama is continuing with that, which, obviously is not great for Dallas. I think, again, they are primed for a collapse this season. Their collapse already started last year, right? They were 7 wins, but they still had a minus 100 point differential. And I think it's just going to continue. I think they're going to finish 6-11. I think Dak's going to have a fine season, but their roster's falling apart, and they are a couple seasons away from being in pure rebuild mode, which is pretty crazy. But as a Commanders fan, I can't be any happier about that. So maybe we'll get 2 free wins this season. So 6-11 for the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, hello there, everyone. This is editing Ryan here. At the time of recording this video, the Micah Parsons trade did not go through. It now has. So the Dallas Cowboys basically just traded away their best player for a Pro Bowl defensive tackle and 2 first-round picks. And Jerry Jones, the delusional man that he is saying, oh, this was the plan all along. We got to stop the run. Very, very goofy stuff. I am ultimately going to say that they're going to stay 6-11. Micah Parsons is a phenomenal player, but I don't think losing him is going to change their record at all. They're still not going to be very good. Just absolute garbage that Jerry Jones lost their absolute best player a week before the season started because he decided to negotiate straight with Micah and not through his agent like you're supposed to do. Complete bonkers.
Next up, we have the New York Giants. So the Giants are fully fledged in their rebuild now after trying to make it work with Daniel Jones. They seem to really like Brian Daboll, so they're going to keep him, but I think he would be on the hot seat. So right now, the big story with the Giants is their quarterback situation because they drafted Jackson Dart as a rookie, and he's presumably going to be the future. But you have 37-year-old Russell Wilson. And Russell Wilson is a very interesting case because if you look at his last 2 seasons, especially with Pittsburgh and with the Broncos, stat-wise, he hasn't done bad. But at the same time, he hasn't been great either. But he showed it in the preseason game. He still has his arm. He can still throw the ball 60 yards. So I think Russ is going to do fine. I think he's going to do average. I think he's just going to be a somewhat average quarterback. His physical prowess have declined. So now he's gone from being an exceptional Hall of Fame quarterback to just being an average one. So I think that's all that he's really going to be. My prediction for the Giants is Russell Wilson is going to play 6 or 7 games. He's going to play fine. And then eventually he's going to regress to the point that they're going to take him out. And then they're going to bring in Jackson Dart, and he's going to get some meaningful reps as a rookie. I think the Giants are going to end 4-13. They're still not going to be a very good team. It's going to be similar to what the Tennessee Titans are doing with Cam Ward. It's going to be just a year where they test out their roster. They test out Jackson Dart. Brian Daboll is probably going to get 1 more year because they have a rookie quarterback. And then 2026 is really when he's going to be on the hot seat. So I'm going to go 4-13 for the New York Giants. So now we're going to go into the NFC North, and this is probably the most competitive division in the entire NFC, debatably the entire NFL. We're going to kick things off with the Detroit Lions. Now, the Detroit Lions had the most successful regular season in their entire franchise's history. In terms of point differential, they had the highest point differential of any Detroit Lions team that has ever been fielded in their entire franchise's history. The Lions are in a completely new era. They're one of the few teams that have broken through their glass ceiling, but they were upset by the Washington Commanders in the divisional round. Jared Goff threw 4 interceptions, I think, and they were never in that game. We were always 1 step ahead of them because they couldn't stop our offense. No matter how much their offense moved, our offense moved just as quickly. So it's going to be a big bounce back year for the Lions. They've had 2 heartbreaking playoff losses where they were a half a football away from the Super Bowl 2 years ago, and they got upset by us. But they're like the Ravens and the Bills. They are going to reload and just make 1 more Super Bowl push because they have the roster. They have everything that they need. They just need to make it to the Super Bowl and win. It's the same thing as a lot of these other teams. It's the same thing as the Eagles. It's the same thing as the Bills and the Ravens. They have the team. They have their contending team. I think they're going to go 12-5. I think they're going to be just as good as they were. Maybe not the best team in the league, but they're still going to dominate. They're still going to do well. They're one of the best rosters in the NFL, and they built it through drafting. They have a nice young team. They have one of the best head coaches in the league in Dan Campbell. The Lions are the same team they were last year. It's all about finishing the job. So 12-5 for the Lions. Next up, we have the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers are a very young team, and they've been very interesting the past couple years, ever since Jordan Love took over. They don't have a lot of veterans. Getting Josh Jacobs was good. Matt LaFleur is a good head coach. But there's always been something missing with the Packers that prevented them from getting far. They lost in the divisional round the last 2 years. They need to make that next big step. I think they're in a very similar situation to the Chargers and the Broncos, where they have a good roster, good head coach. They are a solid playoff team. But solid playoff team doesn't win a Super Bowl unless you get incredibly lucky. So they're, I'm just going to say right now, they're going to go 10-7. If Jordan Love can stay healthy, then they may do a little bit better. But I think the Packers are going to have another very good above-average season. But it's going to be the same thing with a lot of these other teams. Like I said, the Bills and the Ravens, where they're expected to do well in the regular season. It's a matter of if they can take that extra step in the playoffs and beat these former Super Bowl contenders. Like if the Packers upset the Eagles in the playoffs or something like that, then maybe we'll take them seriously. But until they have a big statement win like that, they're going to be one of these same teams that's either a wild card exit or a divisional round exit.
Hello, everybody. Another addendum for you for this video regarding the Micah Parsons trade. As you all know, the Packers now have Micah Parsons. And unlike the Cowboys, this is actually going to change my prediction. I'm going to go with 11-6 for the Green Bay Packers now. I think when you have a team that's right on the cusp of making noise in the playoffs, getting someone like Micah Parsons could make a difference. You think about Saquon going to the Eagles, right? And that pushed the Eagles over the edge and won the Super Bowl. I think Micah Parsons can do very, very similar things for Green Bay. So I actually think this helps Green Bay a tremendous amount. And I think that they might do a hell of a lot of damage. And it's going to be the difference, I think, for them. So 11-6 for the Green Bay Packers. I'm going to go ahead and change my record now because of what they did literally yesterday.
So next up, we have the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings shocked everyone when we all thought they were going to have a rebuilding, reloading kind of season. And they went 13 wins with Sam Darnold and then choked in the playoffs. The Vikings are very similar to the Steelers in that they always have good regular seasons, but they don't do well in the playoffs. The year before that was Kirk Cousins' last year, where they had an absolute miracle run to 14 wins, but with a minus point differential. They were winning some heart-stopping games, and then they lost in the playoffs as well in the first round. So again, kind of the same thing I was saying with the Packers. They've shown that they can do well in the regular season. It's just a matter of if they can make that next step to the promised land and making it far into the postseason. This is J.J. McCarthy's first season. He's a second-year quarterback, but he's coming off an Achilles tear, and it is basically his rookie year. Based on how Sam Darnold did in that system, I think J.J. McCarthy is going to do just fine. I think he's going to have kind of like a Bo Nix caliber season where he's going to struggle the first couple of games, but he's going to get the hang of it mid-season, and we're going to see steady improvement and steady progression with him, is what I'm expecting. So I'm going 11-6 for the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're going to do a little bit better than the Packers just because I think their roster is better and their team is better. Considering how well they did, 13 wins last year, I think they have a better defense, and I think they have overall better pieces, and I think they have a better head coach. Kevin O'Connell, I think, is one of the premier young head coaches in the league, and as long as they have him, they're going to be successful. I'm going 11-6 for the Minnesota Vikings. So next up, we have the Chicago Bears. Now, I have a lot to say about the Bears, and it's probably going to be one of my more hotter takes for this game, for this video. But the Bears are such an interesting team to me because every single offseason, they make so many big acquisitions, like when they got Keenan Allen, Romeo Odunze in the first round. They got DeAndre Swift. They drafted Caleb Williams, generational guy, first overall. They made that huge trade. But they still can't put it together, and they still have terrible regular seasons. I don't know what the issue is with the Bears, but they constantly disappoint every single year. And if I can point it to anything, it might just be coaching. This might be an example of a poorly run franchise wasting talent and not being able to build a good team. And that just might be what the Bears are. They've done that. The Bears have been that for a very long time, where they've struggled to be successful with talent. I don't know. Like, they had their one big good season in 2018. They had a wild card exit in 2020 where they got beaten badly by the Saints. They were 8-8. They barely even deserved to be there. They have done very little in the last 7-8 years, and they have their generational quarterback of the future. Caleb Williams showed flashes when they played against the Commanders. I was like, okay, this guy definitely has talent. He can definitely play quarterback, but his team is kind of failing him. His offensive line's failing him. But I think if he has a good line and all that stuff, I think he can put it together and be a good quarterback. Ben Johnson being their head coach, I think could put them a step in the right direction for sure. It just remains to be seen if they're going to be able to put it all together, because they still have that issue where they always fall below expectations. So let's pull up the last 5 years right here of the decade. So 8-8 with Mitch Trubisky, they point positive to the differential. They weren't good, right? And they got beat by the Saints convincingly in the wild card round. Next year was Justin Fields' rookie year, 6-11, minus 96 point differential. Terrible. The year after that, 3-14, minus 137 point differential. Matt Eberflus gets fired. And then last year was Caleb Williams' 2023 was Justin Fields' last chance, 7-10, minus point differential. Then we have the first year with Caleb Williams. They were 5-12, minus 60 point differential. It just seems like every single year they've been rebuilding ever since Jay Cutler left them in 2015. The last 10 years, they've been desperately trying to find their quarterback. First it was Mitch Trubisky. They gave him a couple years, didn't work. Then they gave it Justin Fields. It didn't work. Caleb Williams is a good quarterback. I think if Caleb Williams can make it work with the Bears and they trade him, he's going to go to a different team and he's going to do well. But I don't think the Bears are going to trade him. I think they're going to try to extend him because I think they know that he has talent. So I don't know where they're going to land. I'm ultimately going to say the Bears are going to go 7-10. Despite all the seemingly positive moves they're making, Ben Johnson might turn things around because I think he did well as a coordinator. He might be a good head coach, but I still don't see the Bears being a legitimate threat. I just don't. I think it's something in the front office, something in the franchise, something in the ownership, GM, the front office. The Commanders had bad ownership for so long that it's very hard for a team, for a franchise to overcome bad ownership. You'll have good seasons here and there, but to get sustained success, you need good ownership. And unfortunately, I don't think the Bears have that. It's like the Bengals and the Browns. No, they don't have good ownership, so they fumble the bag and they fall back on expectations. I think the Bears are another one of those teams. My prediction is they're going to go 7-10. So now we come down to the NFC South. This is one of the other weaker divisions in the NFL, but, remains to be seen how it'll be this year. We're going to start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So if y'all remember the last video I made about the most successful teams of the 2020s decade, I put Tampa Bay on there as a top 5 team. They have made the playoffs every single year of the decade. Tom Brady obviously got them a ring. Their 2021 campaign was historically the best season in Tampa Bay history in terms of point differential. And then they transitioned pretty seamlessly from Tom Brady to Baker Mayfield. And Baker Mayfield had another fantastic year for him and the Buccaneers. They did very well against Washington. They very easily could have won that playoff game. So they'll be back with a vengeance. They have a lot of, the best way I can describe it is they have a lot of stalwart veteran players that have been in Tampa for a very long time. And that is very good in terms of veteran leadership. You got guys like Vita Vea, Levante David, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, all these guys that have been with Tampa for a very, very long time through their Super Bowl years. And that's going to keep them strong and competitive. I think Baker Mayfield is a top 10 quarterback in the league. I think he has that X factor that a lot of quarterbacks just don't have. And you see it. You see it when he runs. He's a small guy, but he runs for yardage. He has a strong arm. He's not afraid to put his body on the line. He threw for 40 touchdowns last year. So I think that the Buccaneers have an identity, which a lot of teams don't have. They're a tough team. I think they're going to go 11-6. I think they're a very, very good team, and I think they're going to get 11 wins because they're going to benefit from being in a weak division. But I think they are a very good team. I would not be surprised if they win a playoff game. And this is another one of those teams that if they made it to the conference championship, it would not surprise me. So 11-6 for Tampa Bay. So next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons remind me a lot of the Chicago Bears in that they've made tons of trades and acquisitions to improve their roster, but it just hasn't paid dividends for them. They have one of the longest playoff droughts in the NFL. I think it's been since a little thing right there. I want to say 2017, maybe. It's either 2017 or 2018. I think it was 2017. They've had a very long playoff drought. Kirk Cousins didn't work out. Now he's their backup, and they have to run with the guy they drafted in Michael Penix, and he is going to start now. It's going to be really interesting if Michael Penix can hold on to the job when a 37-year-old Kirk Cousins is there, and I think he has a lot of football left to give. You know, when you get to your late 70s, late 30s like that, after the age of 35, your kind of clock starts ticking. But look at a lot of these quarterbacks. Matt Stafford is age 37. He's going to play. Russell Wilson's 37. Phillip Rivers played till he's 39. And Roethlisberger played till he was 39. The late 30s, you got a couple years left. So they may go to Kirk Cousins to save their season if Michael Penix isn't playing well. But will he play well? I think he will. I think he's going to play nice, stable football. I don't know if he's going to really set the world on fire, but he had time to start in his rookie year last year, which is very, very good for his confidence, building chemistry with the team. I think that they are going to go 7-10 though this year again. They are stacked on offense with guys like Bijan Robinson, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, still waiting for him to come into his own. But they got a lot of weapons on their team, but they always seem to fall short. And I don't think they've made enough significant changes, especially with semi-rookie quarterback in Michael Penix. I don't think that he's really going to set the world on fire. I think he's going to do fine, but doing fine isn't going to make the playoffs. You know what I mean? And I don't think they're going to take the division from Tampa Bay, and I don't think they're going to be good enough to snag a wild card spot from a team like the Commanders or the Packers or the Vikings. Right now, I see those as the main three wild card teams, and I don't see the Falcons being good enough that they're going to take it from any of those three teams. So next up, we have the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers are one of these other teams that are in the midst of their rebuild still. We actually saw some positive progress with them. With Bryce Young last year, after he came back off the bench, he started to play very well. He started to make plays, and he started to win games for the Panthers. The Panthers still didn't do very well. They are the de facto worst team of the decade so far. They've had double-digit losses the entire time in the decade. And I don't think this season is going to be any different. I think the Panthers are going to go 5-12. Their rebuilding is still continuing. They're not there yet. I think we're still going to continue to see progress with Bryce Young, though. And I think I could see them doing a little bit better than 5-12. I just think that they're not there yet. They don't have enough talent on the roster, and I think that they're still suffering the consequences of trading all those first-round picks for Bryce Young. But if Bryce Young has a good season, a good bounce-back season where he looks like their starter, I think that's a huge win for Carolina. It's like the same thing with Caleb Williams, where if they make that big step where the franchise and their fans can be like, okay, at least we have our franchise quarterback, everything else will kind of fill itself out, then I think they'll be okay. So 5-12 for the Panthers. So last but definitely least, we have the New Orleans Saints. The Saints are going to be the worst team in the league. I think that's a general consensus for people. They're going to go 3-13. I'm just going to jump that in there right now. Spencer Rattler is their quarterback, but this is basically what we all knew was going to happen with the Saints because they had a very overpaid roster. Their cap space was in cap hell. They were in the negative in cap, and all they could muster were 9-win seasons of being painfully mid. And now the bottom has fallen out, and now they're in full rebuild mode. They got a couple rookie quarterbacks. They don't have a lot of talent on the roster. They have an aging roster. Guys like Cameron Jordan, it's time for him to retire. Alvin Kamara is getting older. Still a fantastic player, but he's getting older. The Saints are on pace to blow up their entire franchise. It's really weird to see where they've been ever since Drew Brees left them. They've been very, very unsuccessful. Not much to say about the Saints. They're going to be bad. They're going to be 3-14. All right, so now we come to the last division in the NFC West, and what a division it is. We're going to start off with the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams have been one of the more successful teams in the decade, much like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They've been very up and down, and because they haven't had dominant regular seasons, I think they get lost under the radar by a lot of scouts and pundits and like analysts and stuff like that. They have not had a positive 100-point differential regular season, so like their regular seasons have been marked by injuries and inconsistencies. But when they make the playoffs, they beat a lot of teams they beat a lot of teams, and that is a mark to Sean McVay's coaching and their superior talent. They're a very unique team in that way that they don't dominate in the regular season like the Ravens, Bills, or Lions do, but you know that when you face them in the postseason, they're going to be a threat. Matt Stafford has battled some injuries throughout training camp with his back, but everything points to him being a week 1 starter. Hopefully he can play the full season. I like Matt Stafford. I like the way he plays. I like that he won his Super Bowl ring. He's right on the fringe of being a Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I think if he plays 3 more years, retires at 39, gets a couple more Pro Bowls, maybe wins another Super Bowl, God forbid an MVP, I think if he has that late stage resurgence, I think he will make it to the Hall of Fame. But if he just kind of flutters around and maybe makes 1 or 2 more Pro Bowls but doesn't win an MVP or a Super Bowl, I think he'll just be right on the cusp of not being a Hall of Famer. But he's etched out a phenomenal career for himself. Him and Sean McVay have great chemistry. The whole team as a whole is clearly very well coached because I think Sean McVay is the best head coach in the NFC. He's phenomenal. You see it in the postseason. I think the Rams are going to go 12-5. I think they're going to be a very good team. If everything goes right, they'll go 12-5. They struggle with injuries a lot, so they may very well not reach the heights. They might not reach their ceiling, but they're still a very, very good team. And I wouldn't be surprised if they, had a dominant regular season. So next up, we have the Seattle Seahawks. And they're another interesting team too, because if I could describe them in one word, it's mid. They are a mid team. Sam Darnold's their quarterback, mid. They have a lot of young talent like Kenneth Walker and Darren Witherspoon, mid. They have a young they're a lot like the Packers. If I could compare them to one team, it'd be like the Packers. They're well coached. They have a nice young coach, but are they going to win a Super Bowl this year? Probably not. I see the Seahawks being a team like last year where they are in playoff contention, but they barely lose out at a 9-8 record. That's my prediction. And they're going to barely lose out. It's going to come down to week 18, and they're just going to fall short just by 1 week. I think Sam Darnold's going to do well. I think they're going to keep him as their starter, as a mid-starting quarterback. And I think that's exactly what the Seattle Seahawks are going to be this year. They're going to be mid. They're going to be average. They're going to be all right. They're going to be fine. But I think they're not going to make the playoffs. I don't think that they're going to beat a lot of contending teams. But they could prove me wrong. But based on everything I've seen from them, I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And now we come to the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have been rebuilding the last 3 years with Jonathan Gannon as their head coach. I think the general consensus is he is a good head coach, but like the Cardinals as a whole don't have a lot of talent, and they haven't really been able to turn the corner. And I think a lot of that just comes from Kyler Murray, them hitching their wagon on him. He's a lot like Tua Tagovailoa, I think, where they paid him all that money. He's their franchise quarterback. But is Kyler Murray better than Jane Daniels? Is Kyler Murray better than Lamar Jackson? Is he in the same tier as those guys? Not by a long shot. He is one of these tier 2 quarterbacks that you win with, but he has a lot of physical gifts, but they are very, very few and far between. He's like a poor man's Russell Wilson, shall I say. And when you have your franchise quarterback being this mid, this average, you're not going to go anywhere with it. We remember when he made the playoffs and he shit the bed. Sorry, pardon my French, against the Rams. That 1 pick 6 he threw was embarrassing. I think the Cardinals are going to finish 7-10 this year again. I honestly think they're not going to go anywhere with Kyler Murray, to be honest. I think that if their roster continues to improve, they have the chance of being 9-8 and doing well, but I don't think Kyler Murray is their answer at quarterback, and they are stuck with him, unfortunately. And that's the worst place for a team to be, in mediocrity hell, like the Cardinals are, getting 7 wins and just not being enough to reach that next tier. That's exactly what the Washington Commanders were a couple years ago when Taylor Heineke was starting for them and Ron Rivera was head coach 2020 through 2022. They were just barely out of the playoff race, and that's the worst thing because you can't get draft picks to have you break that glass ceiling. And I think that's where the Cardinals are right now. So 7-10 for the Arizona Cardinals. Last but not least, we have the San Francisco 49ers. I think the 49ers are the biggest wild card in the entire NFL, really, because they have been remarkably successful. They've made 3 conference championships in this decade, 4 if you count 2019, and been to 2 Super Bowls, but they don't have a ring. They have the same core group of guys through this entire thing. They've had Trent Williams, George Kittle, Brock Purdy's another guy, Brandon Ayuk. They have a fantastic defense. They have some of the best linebackers in the NFL. God, I'm blanking on the guy's name. This guy. All-pro linebacker, fantastic players on all sides of the ball. They haven't drafted well, but, they have Christian McCaffrey, another guy they got in free agency. They were beaten by injuries last year, and that's why they didn't make the playoffs. If the 49ers are healthy, they'll be a threat once again. If all goes well, I'm going to have them go 11-6. I think they're going to have a good bounce-back year. The NFC, I think, is very, very competitive, and I think you're going to see that if the 49ers come back guns a-blazing like they do. 11-6 for the San Francisco 49ers. I think they are going to vie for that wild card spot. So right now you have the Commanders, Packers, Vikings, and 49ers vying for wild card spots. One of those teams has to go. I just hope it's not our Washington Commanders. So that concludes my prediction videos for the season, for the 2025 NFL season. Next week, we're going to be going over week 1, and the predictions for 2025 are about to get started. And I don't know about you guys, but I am very, very excited for it. I'll see you guys next week.